Hey everyone, before we kick this episode off, I urge everyone listening to like and subscribe to our podcast, wherever you may get your podcast from. So if you listen to us on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating, or also subscribe to us on Spotify. And I urge all of our listeners to head to our website, and you can get more than just our podcast from there. We have news stories all the time there. We have feature articles there. So head to tnpmedia.au. That's tnpmedia.au. All right, without further ado, we'll get stuck into the podcast.
Talk and Power, your motorsport and motoring radio show. Now on 88.5 FM, The Valley Comes Alive. And podcasting across iTunes and talkandpower.com.au.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Talk and Power podcast, episode 201.
Did we have a celebration for 200?
We haven't done 200, so we're going to skip 200. We're going to do 201, and we'll get back to 200 later on when we have a special guest. I know it makes no sense, but
that makes zero sense.
That's how I'm going to roll, all right?
It's your show.
My name is Nick DiCembrio. I'm here with co-host Simon Gonzo Travellini over there and co-host Michelle Morrison over there. How are we?
Doing well.
Going well?
Yeah, great.
Everyone's had a restful... No one's had a restful weekend, I don't think. We'll talk about you. You did just briefly test and tune.
Yes, good thing we did.
Yeah.
Good thing we did. We had the car all fired up and ready to go with intentions of running Powerpalooza, which of course the drag racing section got cancelled because of the track repairs. So yeah, we got to the track and fired up just to warm up the car before going out for the first lap, and just heard some noises in the transmission which I wasn't too happy about. So good thing I have a spare, and it's not really my spare I shouldn't say I have a spare, but good thing Trevor has a spare, and that's what you get when you have a father-in-law and a husband that have the same car as you. So quickly Trev dashed home, and luckily it was already out of his car from the last time we had to do that, and just did a straight swap with the transmission.
Okay. Oh, but you still had to go home and get it, so
Yeah.
you lost a bit of time there.
Yeah, and it was funny hearing him say that, on the drive there and on the drive back, all he could think about is, what the noise was making and what it could be. And it made me think of when we had Mike and Kevin on speaking about Drag Week and saying that, they just don't listen to anything while they're driving, just to listen out for any noises, and then your imagination starts to play on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the end, put the transmission in my car and ran a 725, which was pretty much bang on what I was running last season. So,
Okay.
Yeah, happy with that. Went out for a second lap, took the right lane after its newly laid surface.
I was going to ask, was the concrete dry?
Yeah, I know, right? It wasn't too much time, but no, it looked... I guess, in all seriousness, though, it had been some time since I'd raced in the right lane, because with consistency, I've just been choosing the left, and being top qualifier, I've had the advantage of being able to do that. But, it was fine. I wouldn't say that it felt
Different.
as smooth as anything, but I also did have a bit of fun because with the test and tunes, you line up in your allocated staging lane, and when a partner comes that's in your category, then they'll bring you through when it's your turn. And some races were having to sit for quite a while to wait for a pairing. So Trent spoke with Liz Johns, and they decided, okay, well, you can either wait for another pair to come round, or you can go up with Jess.
How did Jess go?
Yeah, really good.
Excellent.
Yeah, really
excellent.
good. She was stoked. She was really rapt to be to get her passes down, and but I ran a pro tree. So,
Oh, yeah.
So we zeroed out the delay box, and I said to Trent, "Oh, I'll leave off the first light anyway." And then I thought, "Oh, hang on a second. When I take my thumb off the trans brake, my foot isn't actually down."
Yep.
So I left with a bit of a lower RPM off the launch, so it slowed us down a little bit to 60 foot and all 730.
All you've got to do different, which you wouldn't want to get into the habit because you normally run on a full tree, but as soon as the other car's in...
Yeah, I was in... It did happen really fast. It must have been like a quicker, randomised light.
Yep.
Because it was all happening like straight away. She also red lit at like a 0.24 red light, so she significantly...
How do you red light on a pro tree?
I'm not sure if I can give advice of how you do
ring her
pro
up
trees
later
because it wasn't,
happened.
It wasn't great for me, but
That's red.
but I said to Trent,
That's a lot of red. It's redder than that.
It's red.
It's
Are we going to talk about reds? Anyway, we'll get to that later.
fair enough.
But yeah, so that was cool. And I said to Trent, in the end, we probably shouldn't have worried about the reaction time, and I should have just left when I usually leave and we do our own calculations. But at the end of the day, weren't really testing for that.
It might have
see it run.
been too red for the tree if you did that.
No, it's 0.4 if it's too red for the tree. It was 0
Yeah,
out
but
in
you
the
would
chute.
be you run about 0.7, 0.77, somewhere around there in the box.
This might be a conversation for another day, but I don't know.
Anyway,
what-
whatever
I
it
don't know
is,
what gets
whatever
put in
the
X.
number is,
X.
I'm pretty sure that it's more than what the tree.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be secret squirrel business, but I'm also being that Trent actually alters the box to what I'm doing.
Yep.
So I just do the same thing every time. I don't look when he touches it, and he just...
Because I don't think the tree can register more than 0.4 negative.
Yeah, it just comes out 0 on the slip, that's for sure, yeah.
Oh, well, it's good. Good to see you. I saw some photos. Now, is it my eyes?
No, it's not your eyes.
You did mention to me, I can't remember if it was on air or off air, that you were looking at changing
Yeah.
the pink.
I was looking at changing the pink, and admittedly, it's come out not the way that I hoped.
Am I missing something here?
It's the colour of the car.
Yeah. The paint job didn't really turn out
It's not pink.
the pink. It's not.
Oh,
it's
that's
not,
paint, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what happened is
Old school.
Old school. We were playing around with a few pinks. I wanted to avoid the pink looking too dark under the lights, which we can see happen with Benny Stevens' bike. It ends up being more of a purple.
Yes.
So my painter was playing around with a few, colours to try and get the right one. And then I saw JD's sprint car come out, and I was like, that's the pink. Like, that's the pink that I'm looking for. So JD's given me the name of the paint. My guys got it in, but what we didn't realise is then that paint then got altered once they had it in. The painter actually tweaked it a bit from there because they saw it in the can and went, hang on a second, this isn't going to... Once they did some test sprays, we're like, this isn't going to be the right colour we're looking for. But I've just said to my painter, this is what he used. He put it over white. So my painter's done all the right things, but it's obviously given the result that it has, which is a much more of a neon red. Yeah. So, I've spoken before about how important it is for me to have a pink car and what it means to me and what it symbolises for female racing and my history of racing as well, realistically. So as much as the paint job was done very well, unfortunately, it is going to be done again. So, yeah.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Looked all right.
Yeah.
But it was noticeably different.
Yeah, and just for I guess, I don't want to say brand identity, but for my identity and my racing, and it's just it's just really important to me that it's pink.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And Simon, you got the beach buggy going, you were saying?
Yes.
It's awesome. Happy with that? It's been a few years.
I remembered why I never turbocharged that.
Okay, yep, I do too.
I'll tell you what I did do on Saturday. The Supra that we've been building at the shop, we took it down to Spool Auto Works, and we were aiming to make the rods and piston that were in that motor were fitted by Formaz, which has been gone for longer than I can remember. So we estimate that they're over 20 years old. And, they were rated 1,000 horsepower. So I said to Mick, look, DCs are a bit better. We've got a bit better fuel, a bit better head sealing, etc. I think we can push it a little bit harder than that. And we ended up making 1,513 horsepower, which surprised all of us. And we drove it out of there, drove it into the workshop. But yeah, I said to the owner, look, I think that obviously we know we haven't pegged the turbo yet. We probably should upgrade the rods and piston in this thing before, because the sump on it's like 10 grand's worth, one of those Dailies billet, things. And I said it's going to be cheaper to do the rods and pistons than have one come out the sump. So, but yeah, we were quite shocked. And we had, trigger issues. With any setup that doesn't have a distributor, it needs to know where number one cylinder is. So the way you do that is you've got your chopper wheel or whatever you want to call it on the crankshaft, and then you'll have another one on the camshaft that tells it this is where number one, and it'll sync. And for some reason we kept on losing that, but the chopper wheel that we've got on there is just a standard Toyota non-VVT version, so it's a 12-point. So I think while we're doing this, we're going to upgrade that, and that should get rid of the trigger error at the same time.
It's only got 12 targets. It's only got 12,
It's
nowhere near enough for what you guys are trying to do.
Yeah, we did discuss it, but I was like, let's try it and see. So yeah, it came as a bit of a shock. I've heard a couple of people say, it just went straight up and that was it. Yeah, it's because it hit boost cut. Went to 57 pounds. We had boost cut at 55. So we did a heap of runs. I think we did probably 15 power runs ranging from, I think the lowest was like 1,086 and that was the highest. And we turned the motor to 9,300 on several occasions. No issues with the engine, oiling system, fuel system, everything. That car started as a bare shell. Yeah. So when I stand there and look at it and go, I just can't believe that we did that. It's really...
It's been a long time there, hasn't it?
Especially when it hasn't been... It's gone to this workshop to get this done. It's gone to this workshop. The only time that left Allfast was to get the paint applied on it. Even a lot of the bodywork got done there. So, I'm really happy. The owner was over the moon. The owner was just unbelievably excited and happy and just couldn't... I mean, none of us expected that it was going to do that. So, Rory told me years ago, he said... if at first you do succeed, try not to look surprised. I'll give you the tip. We were all looking surprised. That was pretty cool to do that. We're still waiting on a bumper for it, which is coming from the Dominican Republic. So the bumper, Windrush have got the dash underway. And once we've got the dash in, then we'll fit the windscreen to it. And then we just got to decide which class we're going to run it in. We built that car so it was legal for X275 because we had discussed with the owner about shipping it to America and running it at Orlando because that's like the mecca for the import scene, for all of that stuff. So we've made sure everything is 100% legal for that, and we should be able to get NHRA tech, all the funny car cage, and everything's all good. Now it's just a matter of whether we run it in the radial series here or the class that I've been looking at is called Osmod. It's a super stock sports compact class that fits into super stock. Mm-hmm. So we're way overweight. we are like way, I think we're like 500, 600 pounds overweight. And, you know, I said to the owner, look, we can always pull weight out later. I don't know where from, because, you know, anyway. But the only thing that we'd need to change is to put a 28x9 tyre on it.
Oh, yeah.
But I think we could run the Andrew record in Osmod. So I want to have a chat to Ray about it and just see, you know, we like, you know, I think it's important that if there's a class that needs more numbers, that we go in there, because I think it'll be competitive in both classes. And yeah, so we're going to put rods and pistons in it, and we're going to head back to the dyno. What we really want to do is peg that turbo now. That's our goal. So we think we should be able to make 1,800 out of that turbo, which I don't know about you guys, but it just spins me out because that is a 3-litre engine. It's a factory block. It's a factory crank. It's a factory head. The cams are nothing to write home about. You know, there's nothing special in it. It hasn't got alley rods or...
It's a 2J, but isn't it?
2J, yeah.
2J's, yeah.
So, yeah. So that's what I've been up to.
It's exciting. I saw it on Facebook. I said, we need to talk about that. That's pretty cool, I reckon. That's awesome.
Oh, just, yeah, like I said, it surprised all of us. It's only got one set of injectors in it. It's not a real... And the fuel pump, mathematically, before we went, I went, well, you know, I think we're going to be safe around 1,300. And, yeah, when we looked at the data from the 1,500, we've probably got a bit more left in the fuel pump. So, you know, we'll max out something first and then see what we need to upgrade.
Have you guys considered using the car as a promo tool for the up-and-coming Toyota Supra entering... I know it's a different model, different shape, the one that we enter in supercars, but have you considered the thought of using that as a promotional tool?
No, sorry, Nick, this is a Toyota, not a BMW.
Yeah, I know, but I know, but...
And it's got an inline 6 in it.
I'm trying to segue into supercars now. That was my segue, but have you considered that? That would be pretty cool.
No, it wouldn't be cool. I don't think any
or should
Supra...
you use the Camry to
Yeah, now that's more appropriate. See, why didn't they do a Camry supercar?
I know. Yeah, that's a good question, but do they want to push them? They could have used the Camry, but do they want to push the market towards the Supra, or do they want to push it towards an Uber car?
Nick, that is a really simple question to answer, and the reality is, when they release a naturally aspirated V8 Supra, then running it in supercars will make sense.
Yeah. But would it make sense trying to promote an Uber car?
Well, I think that we have totally lost the whole motivation behind the supercars.
Yeah.
Okay? So if we think back, and, you know, a lot of people listening to this show weren't even born back then, but if you think back to how this started, we had genuine touring cars that were production cars, okay? Then they had the improved production series running alongside.
Yeah, they ran side by side, correct. Yep.
Then they that evolved into Group C, which is the era that we remember.
Yep.
People, you know, the X-Gens and the Boomers, to them, that's the best era of the, you know, supercars. The big flares, the big tyres. You know, there was some strange rules. Like, I don't know if you knew this, but the roll cages were not allowed to be welded in because they were not allowed to be a structural member. So those cars had aluminium roll cages that were bolted in. They weren't going to save anyone if they had an accident. But anyway. And then we got rid of that and went to Group A because we wanted to get the international teams over, right? And we got our asses handed to us. Walkinshaw with the Jags, Rudy
Edinburgher.
That's it, with the Sierras, which still to this day, I read an article just...
you sent that the other day, yes.
Right, about the controversy of, was it the fuel or was it the wheel arches? Right? On the day, it was the wheel arches, but somehow...
No, on the day, it was the fuel.
Well,
And became the Wheel Archers afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember it being the Wheel Archers. But anyway. So we couldn't compete with the Europeans, right? That was the reality. We couldn't compete. They had better prepared cars. They worked better. The Nissans locally, took the series away. You could buy the GDR, but there was only a limited number brought into the country. You couldn't buy the Sierra. It was going nowhere. Ford and Holden were, really not participating. The VL wasn't really competitive. So we created this series. So we created a series to protect the locally manufactured cars. Fast forward to now, the cars are not anything to do with a production car. They're a full tube frame. They're basically a circuit version of a funny car. That's what they are now, right? They're a tube frame chassis with a fiberglass body thrown over it that kind of looks like the original car. The wheelbase is altered, the track's altered. They run a transaxle. The engines are kind of loosely, for the Ford and the Holden, loosely, related to the engine that they come out with from factory, but not really. The LS is the Camaro's the LT. They're stopping making the Camaro, and now we're introducing a Toyota Supra with a V8 that's not even, I don't know what it's out of, Toyota Tundra or something. I don't know.
It was used. I don't know where it's used, but it was used in a Hilux at Dakar.
So the series right now, it makes absolutely no sense, and you are not gonna get. This is the thing that those people need to understand: the difference between you and I, as kids, watching Bathurst, staying up, watching Hardy's Heroes, that whole deal, right, and being passionate about those cars, is because our parents owned them.
Yeah.
Our parents owned a Falcon or a Commodore or a Kingswood back in the day, right? That's the difference. You're not going to get kids that are going to watch it because their dad owns a Mustang. You know what I mean? Because he's going to go, so what? I don't even get to go for it. Dad goes with his mates when he goes in the Mustang.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the other thing is, how many people own Camaros? I mean, if you're out there barracking, you're barracking because you've somehow got this connection to GM because you're a Holden person. Holden doesn't even exist anymore. The whole thing makes zero sense now. It's, if we were in America, it would probably make more sense, but we're in Australia. So I think that you got to go back to touring cars, and you've got to build that over time. You've got to build it. Because this is going to go nowhere. As soon as they stop making the Camaro, it's just going to be, why are they racing Camaros still?
So are you suggesting to use we should be using the Camry?
I think that if kids see the cars that their parents drive, regardless of, because remember they used to run during Group C, you had the 2-litre class, you had everything in there. So some people would come to school and go, oh, did you see that some weird car won the 2, and we'd be like, I don't know, the Falcon won. No, but this won this class because he was watching it because that's what his parents drove. You know what I mean? I think that's what you need to do if you want to get kids more involved in it, or else it's gonna become, I don't know, like this weird thing.
It definitely, that aspect of it definitely just gets kids' attention. I couldn't tell you the amount of times where I'm driving along and the girls will be like, oh, look, Mum, same car as you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that it's not a rare car to see, but they will point out every time they see the same one.
And that's the thing that a lot of parents don't get. Like, we're flat out asking our kids, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want to do that? They don't want to do that. They want to do what we do because that's what they see. You know what I mean? Like, so we've got friends that the husband is like a diehard football fanatic. He's got all the stuff and he goes to all the games and he's got all the memberships, and the wife's very supportive. So their kids are full-on football fanatics because that's what they've
I know who you're talking about there. Your friend?
No, you've never met him.
Oh, sorry. You got another friend like that as well.
Got lots of friends
I've got
like
a friend like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the soccer one that I'm about to mention, they run the clinic at Kingsway. They're full on into soccer, so their kids are full on into soccer.
Yeah.
So if you want to, like that's why football's got Auskick and the rugby's trying something similar at the moment. They're trying to get the kids, because if the kids get in, they will continue to follow it for a large portion of their life, and they will attract, it just all ends up with them following it. And their kids are going to follow it. And, we don't really have that in motorsports. Like, our kids are going to want to get into it because they're watching us do it.
But it's also, I wonder whether it's also because we race at the same time as the kids on the same day at the same track.
I think it's just
does that happen across?
If you're a good parent, your kids idolise you. If you treat your kids nice, they and you're around them all the time.
Yeah.
And because they idolise you, you're their star. I mean, you think about your average punter. Like the chances of them doing something extraordinary. I mean, like, I don't want to blow wind, up anyone's backside, but what we do is pretty extraordinary. We strap ourselves into these things that are, mostly handmade, and then hurdle them down the track at 300 kilometres an hour or more. Yeah. It is pretty crazy.
Cool.
Yeah. So if you had if you were playing football and you won the game and everyone's cheering and the team's all slapping each other on the back and you're a little kid watching that, you're going to think that's cool too. So that person's going to be that kid's hero, right? Yeah. Just like you're your kid's hero. It's just the way it is. And I don't think that any of these governing bodies, they're too busy counting the money to think about, well, how do we make this better? How do we make this, how do we get this into the lounge rooms and get the people interested? Yeah. And if you don't have a relatable portion to it, it's never going to happen.
I tell you what, if big companies are spending their marketing dollars on getting radio advertisement, TV advertisement, big billboards, you're right, Simon. They just need to attract the kids, because the kids will tell you something 100 times in one day.
Yep.
And that's going to get you listening,
Yeah. One of the criticisms from the Bathurst this year, well, that's what we're auguring into, and it's been a few weeks since the Bathurst 1000, but one of the biggest criticisms was that it was a boring race.
Yep.
Boring. And it was boring because there was only one safety car at lap 131, and that was because Matthew Payne hit the wall, and he was the only DNF for the whole race. So there was a perception that the race was boring. It was boring because a lot of people said there was a lack of strategy from some of the other teams challenging Brody Kostecki or Erebus and the two 888 cars.
All right, so we had a quick discussion about this, right? So first off, do not take anything away from what Brody Kostecki, Todd Hazelwood, and the Erebus team did. They went there with that goal. They probably have been working towards that. That poor kid has copped a lot of criticism over this season.
Yep.
And I felt as though they went there with this goal. We're going to win this, and we're going to shut everyone's mouth. And they certainly did that. As far as the race goes, here's the irony. They went to the new car. They went to the new engine package for reliability. Right? They kept on preaching this reliability. We've got to keep the costs down. It's got to be reliable. Okay? If you do it like that, that's the outcome you're going to get. You're going to get a boring race. In the old days, when we were racing production cars, they'd hang the rods out. They'd blow up. The gearboxes would blow up.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That
adds to the drama.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You've deliberately made it so this doesn't happen. So, yeah. What did you expect was going to happen? It was going to be a boring race.
Yeah. So they said some of the criticism was there was a lack of strategy from the other teams. I don't know what strategy they could have employed to beat them.
You couldn't.
The only strategy that they could have taken on was
bumping them off the track.
No, it would be to go on a different fuel strategy and hope. So that last safety car was a perfect timing for basically every team, because after that last safety car, all the cars could get home. What they were hoping for in their strategy was that for that not to happen, and then a late safety car later, where the leading teams would be weighing up whether to pit or not and do a splash and dash, and the other teams would be rewarded for doing that.
You can't bank on.
But that's what they were.
Yeah,
That's everyone from basically everyone except for Erebus and 888. That's what they were banking on.
You know, the other thing
that was their strategy.
The other thing that I found, Nick, is, I don't know if you noticed this, but throughout the whole coverage, after the coverage, the next day, the post-race, all they kept harping on about were how big the crowds were. How big the crowds were. How great
the crowd was down 10,000 people.
Exactly. But the commentators were making it sound like this is the biggest crowd we've ever had at Bathurst.
So it was up on 2022 still, but it was down on 2023. So yeah, it was down 10,000 people, which is it's interesting. So it was the quickest race ever. So we talked about that. I guess you're going to have that sort of outcome when when there's no safety cars, and also at the end of the day, you're exactly right. You haven't allowed a strategy, or you haven't allowed the teams to do something different. So that's what you're left.
Well, you've got an engine that has to make horsepower and torque in this box. You're basically all running the same chassis. You argue half the year about aero, and then ultimately you still sway in the direction that you started. It's not like they suddenly went, let's give the Mustang a new aero package and make them so they're at the pointy end and the Camaros are chasing them instead of the other way around. Nothing's changed in that department. The Mustangs haven't got the inline speed that the Camaros have. It is what it is. What are you going to do, right? So, and like I said, it is dying a natural death. This attempt to bring Toyota in, they're just bringing money in and trying to funnel some of that AFL money into the V8s. It's going to save them for a few more years. But if you haven't got kids that are in their, 10, 12, that age group now, starting to follow this, it's only going to take a few more years before you're going to be looking out over the paddock and there's just not going to be anyone there.
Yeah, no, I agree. What do we think of Betty Kilminko's buy into Auto Action? Where do we sit with that? So a team owner owning part of a 33 or a 32, whatever it is, 33.33 recurring share of the media, of one of Australia's biggest publications in the auto.
Could be worse. Could be Scafey.
Look, I mean, a world with auto, this is my view. A world with auto action is a better world than one without. That's my view. So, if she had to buy in to keep the magazine and the podcast going from those guys, look, I'm not a big fan of Bruce. I'm not his biggest fan, and I think he talks quite disrespectfully to his co-hosts from time to time. But at the end of the day, I respect the guy in terms of what he's done. He bailed out auto action a few years ago. And I think, as I said, a world with auto action is better than one without. So that's just my take on it. A lot of people are upset and don't like the fact that she's part owner of the business.
I guess we'll just have to see what comes of it, and how much favouritism there is in any of the commentary now. It's because I'm sure that they're going to be mindful of the chatter that's amongst the other race teams, so they know what they're walking into.
My only statement to that, Michelle, and I agree with you, we've already seen a little bit of it. So we had this report of an Erebus crew member being bashed on the night of Bathurst, and then after a few days, video footage emerged and a police investigation, and this gentleman, for whatever reason, has done that to himself. And it's since come to light that actually there's assault charges against him now. So he's actually assaulted someone and then done this to himself to maybe appear as though This is in front of this will go in front of the court soon. Now, Order Action were pretty quick to post that story in regards to his assault, but
Correct.
they weren't very quick to
Retract it.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and now they're not following the story. Now, is that because of Betty's influence? I don't know. Is there a story there?
There
I
is
don't
no.
know.
Yeah, that's the side of it that we should be talking about. There is no story there.
Yeah.
Right. What that guy does after he leaves the paddock, it's up to him.
Yep.
Should
Yep.
it have ever been covered in the first place?
Correct.
If that's not usually something that they do,
Yeah.
you know, how much else are they going to comment on that happens?
Yeah.
No, they shouldn't have covered it in the first place. It was it was a misstep.
Yeah. Anyway, we had the Gold Coast 500 on as well since our podcast recordings. So it's been an interesting weekend there. It was certainly Cam Waters' day on Saturday, and Brodie turned it around on the Sunday. That said, I really can't see Will Brown losing the championship from here on in. He's got a fairly, so almost a 200-point lead in the championship. And unfortunately, it's just all coming too late for Chaz Mostert. Didn't have the greatest of weekends. I wanted to also talk about Frosty's departure from full-time racing after 21 years. It's sad to see he won't get a full-time drive next year. I'm a big Frosty fan, Mark Winterbottom fan. And also, the calendar is out for this coming year, next year for 2025. The Perth round is now in June. That'll be the final race at Carco Raceway or Wanneroo Raceway. Now, it's interesting. The Bend will be the pre-Bathurst Enduro, and Sandown is after Bathurst. But I can't tell you if that's an Enduro or not. It's a 500-kilometre race. I don't know if it's 2 days of 250, or if it's.
What do you mean? It's the final year?
So this will be the final year at Wanneroo, and then they'll be in the city in 2026.
Oh,
Yep.
So it has been confirmed for the
Yeah.
city.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Yep. So that's happening. That is a happening thing.
Bring on the track limits.
Bring on the road closures.
No, they have this thing on the street circuits where if you go outside of where they mark it, I think they've got a sensor or something on the cars, and you get penalised. And they call it the track limits.
Yeah.
So they don't damage.
I don't know what it is.
No, so see, it's interesting. You go to a track like Austin in COTA, Circuit of the Americas, and they have track limits there for Formula One. They're pretty strict on it. But for NASCAR, they just turn that system off. It's like shut down.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely no track limits at the NASCAR race. And it makes for great racing when there's no track limits.
Yeah. Well, NASCAR might just say we'll pay for the damages.
Just back on the Bathurst thing. Another thing that I think has been to the detriment of supercars is how everyone hugs each other and they're all friendly to each other. Can you imagine when Moffat was in the RX-7, Brocky was in the Commodore, and Dick Johnson was in the Falcon, them, hanging out together, singing Kumbaya and patting each other on the...
Very doubtful. Very doubtful.
They would all be whinging about cams. We need the Bridgeport to be competitive, and we need this, and we need that.
And Larry Perkins, throw Larry Perkins in there as well,
Mate,
yeah.
Jim Richards.
Yeah, there's just, no. And I guess that's part of the way the society is pushing it that way. We're all going to be perceived as loving each other. And
is that, when you get to work on Mondays, did you see Bathurst, how everyone was hugging each other? Wasn't that so good? Or, when you're going to work, they're giving those Mazdas too much power now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But remember the days of Marcus Ambrose and Greg Murphy. They seriously did not like each other, those guys.
Yep.
And you remember 2005 Bathurst? I'm really stretching my memory here, but 2005 where they came together up through the cutting and then got into fisticuffs.
Yeah. There was the helmet incident.
Yeah.
There's...
that's Scaife and Ingle.
Yeah, Scaife and Ingle.
Yeah, the helmet incident. It's just it's those. Yeah, you're right. Those days are.
But that's something to talk about. The closest we've come to was the spoilers last year with the hat.
Yeah, the spoilers with that. And also Brody flashing his lights as well. You know, everyone got upset about it. He flashed his lights on a. So he was behind, I think it was Will Brown doing a quick lap in qualifying, and he may have flashed his lights at him to throw him off. It was unsubstantiated.
To throw him off. And probably get out of the way.
Everyone got upset about that as well. And then we saw Thomas Randall being, and Mark Dutton coming together this year as well. That was a bit, storm in a team cup. If we remember that, Mark Dutton didn't want him and let him in the pit. Thomas Randall was merely coming to apologise to Brock Feeney about, the incident that happened on the track, and, that was blown up as well. But, yeah we certainly don't see those days anymore. But I don't know. What's the answer? The answer is... I always like the formula, or whatever the formula is that the saloon cars or the street cars use here in WA. I still don't know. I don't know exactly what the formula is, but it's the...
Yeah, so that formula works off the capacity of the engine. Then there's a factor for boosted. I can't remember what it was. It was like 1.3 or something like that. And the weight of the vehicle is connected to the width of the tyres. So that the engine capacity is connected to the weight, and there's a factor for boost, and then the weight is connected to the width of the tyres.
Yep.
And yeah, I think it is a good formula. But once again, that's another class that was really, I knew so many people that were considering building a car for it, and then they started to allow sequential transmissions and the upgrading of the suspension, this and that and the other, and then the cost that goes from, we can do this, a few mates get together and put a car together for 20 grand, to we're looking at 150 grand before we even get a roll cage put in it. So yeah, it's unfortunately that's what happens.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Hey, while I'm still talking, if you just forgive me, let's just quickly cover Formula One as well. Mexico happened as well since we've last recorded. So I think Ferrari seriously have sacked the wrong guy. It's not in the notes. I just made a quick note of it. It happened overnight. Max Verstappen got 2 10-second penalties, and so he should. He was being a real royal brat. So he was given 2 10-second penalties. But Carlos Sainz did a superb drive. I really do think...
Oh, you mean... I was wondering, who did they sack? Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, we've sacked the wrong guy.
But
Carlos
we
Sainz.
said that a year ago.
I know, but now it's really like... I'm going to really miss Carlos Sainz. I think a lot of Ferrari fans are going to miss him. Anyway, he had a great win there. Sergio Perez, not particularly happy with Liam Lawson. I wonder if Liam Lawson got security leaving Mexico. Because he wasn't very popular with Sergio Perez, and he wasn't very popular with the Mexicans as well. So the race was down there in Mexico. So Liam Lawson's shown some great talent so far. Been pretty happy with his performance, replacing Daniel Ricciardo. And the world title, I think, is still up for grabs. So it's great to see Formula One has certainly come to life, as the declining Red Bull has sort of injected life into Formula One. Yep. So it's great to see that.
I'll tell you what, Nick, Formula One, may be a tight contest, but you ain't seen nothing till you see the points of the NHRA.
Yeah, I know. Yes. Yep. Hey, we'll take a short break, and when we get back, we'll talk all things NHRA. Okay, Talking Power Podcast, episode 201. It's the episode you have when you're not having a 200th episode.
I still don't understand that, but anyway.
Hey, we're going to cover all things NHRA. I'm going to throw over to the pair of you to cover NHRA.
Yes, so the week-long celebration of speed and all things Texas, known as the Stampede of Speed at the Texas Motorplex, went on without a hitch, but with a big few upsets.
In Top Fuel, Justin Ashley defeated Clay Millican. Clay having a standout season in terms of big wins, having taken out the US Nationals earlier this year for team owner Rick Ware. Ashley
left on Clay with a .26 to Clay's 0.059 and took the win on a hole shot, with the finish line showing Clay's better 3.76 wasn't enough to beat Ashley's 3.77 with a 3. Once again, Justin Ashley has shown his start line ability is head and shoulders above the rest of the field.
You know, I remember it wasn't too long ago the most reaction times in Top Fuel started with a 0.1. It's incredible how much faster the drivers have gotten and how much faster the crew chiefs have gotten the cars to react.
In funny car, the upset of the race was Austin Prock's throttle cabbage linkage failing when attempting the burnout against Ron Capps. After top qualifying and getting to the third round of racing, Prock was unable to front against Capps, handing the Toyota Supra driver a spot in the finals.
There, Capps faced Matt Hagan, and Hagan did not muck around, leaving on Capps with an 0.64 to Capps' 0.84 and taking another whole shot win, his 3.943 to Capps' 3.934.
In Pro Stock, it was a race rematch from another time, with Jack Coughlin Jr. matching up against Greg Anderson. All season, we've seen the Hendrick, KB Racing, Titan team trading blows with Elite Motorsport team. This time, Elite's Jeggy Jr. got the upper hand with a winning margin of about 10
inches.
Or 25 centimetres. Anderson had the starting line advantage with a 0.34 to Jeg's 0.42, but Anderson's 6.60 fell short of Jeggy's 6.59.
You're showing your age there, or lack of age there, Michelle.
I always have to think of Subway. I'm like...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, good point. Good point. In Pro Stock Motorcycle, it was another Matt Smith and Gage Herrera showdown, with Gage taking the win once again. Matt had the starting line advantage with an 0.26 to Gage's 0.33, but Matt's engine shut down about 500 feet out, handing the win to Gage.
Gage is now 4-0, facing off again Matt Smith, and we are now down to the last two races for the season. The Ford Performance Nationals at the Strip in Las Vegas and the In-N-Out Burger NHRA Finals at Pomona Drag Strip in California. And in all but the funny car class, the points are still very tight.
In Top Fuel, Justin Ashley leads by 44 points, but Antron Brown, Sean Langdon and Steve Torrance are all in contention.
In funny car, Austin Prock has a commanding 147-point lead over his next rival, which is the John Force car, now driven with Jack Beckman. Matt Hagan is next, but at 168 points behind. He would need a divine intervention to stop the Prock rocket.
In Pro Stock, Dallas Glenn leads over Aaron Stanfield by 53 points, but Greg Anderson is only 90 points back, and never count out six-time world champion Eric Enders, especially now that she has her seating and clutch pedal issues fixed.
Apparently, the seating position and clutch pedal layout on Erica's new car were affecting her reaction time. The team have been working hard to rectify this issue, and they believe that they have it now sorted. So look for an improved Erica at these last two meetings.
And finally, in an unexpected upset of the season, Gage Herrera leads Matt Smith by only 62 points. Throughout the whole season, we have seen the battle between Matt Smith Racing's V-Twins and the Vance and Hines Suzukis. It has been battled out on Facebook, on YouTube, but on the racetrack this season it has turned out to be one of the closest ever.
Have you got any predictions?
I think Austin Prock in funny car, I think he's got it pretty sewn up. I mean, and you know, how cool is that? He drives it, his dad tunes it, his brother's the car chief. You know, that's like a family affair. And after everything that John Force, and on that note, it was great, Nick mentioned it in the notes, that to see John Force put out that video.
Yeah.
Still looks pretty not really there, but you know, kind of getting there.
Look, I thought I saw your comments on it afterwards, and before I watched it myself, I actually saw it without the volume at first while I was at the track yesterday. But, you know, it more just slowed down his talking. He talks very, very fast to begin with. So, yeah, I felt like once I saw your comment saying, you know, you can still hear that he struggles a bit, I was surprised, because I thought that he still look, in all honesty, he was a lot better than what we thought.
Oh, mate.
So
I know.
nothing had really been said.
When you watch the video, watch it. When he has the sunglasses on, he's reading a prepared statement. At the end of it, he takes his sunglasses off and he starts talking from the heart. When he spoke from the heart, he spoke with no problem at all.
Yeah.
It was the reading of a pre-prepared statement. And who knows,
Doesn't
maybe...
that happen to all of us?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
but-
Maybe
When
he's
doing
that
his
guy...
speeches at the end of the track, he's not reading off anything.
No,
He's
no,
reading
no,
just
that's right.
from his head. I do that.
I've been following the story closely, and they were saying that he was getting very... This is in the early days. He was getting very agitated, and it felt as though they had to cut that a few times because he was probably walking off camera and, you know, getting a bit like that. But it was just awesome to see. He's on his feet. He's got control of his limbs. I mean, you know, the guy is like 75, 76.
Yeah.
Something around.
I think he's 76. I think he's 2 years younger than my dad.
76.
Yeah.
And the concussion that he got and the head trauma that he got, I mean, I think most people would have died, to be honest.
If you watch that video, it's frightening, quite honestly. You can see, because the body starts coming off, and you can see his cage is hitting the wall. His funny car cage is hitting the wall. It's like completely collapsed the left side of the vehicle.
Yeah.
There was nothing there, and like the cage is scraping against the wall. I really don't know how he survived, to be honest.
You know, from what we see, from what's been shared by the team, and knowing how much hospital time and rehabilitation time has been had and what's still needed, I was surprised to see him, not to say that he wouldn't be able to talk, but to be able to
do it that well.
Well. And he does really naturally, before the accident, he does really kind of overextend his mouth when he talks.
Yep.
Anyway. So then to see that wasn't affecting things too much in his speech.
No, I think it's fantastic.
I was certainly surprised.
So, Nick, predictions? Anyone?
Predictions in
Championship.
In championship, I think I'm going with Antoine Brown in top fuel.
Really?
Yeah. I think I'm rooting for
You reckon
him.
Ashley's not going to do it, eh?
I'm rooting for the the come from behind sort of.
Don't say underdog. He's definitely not an underdog.
No, he's not. No, that's right. He's not an underdog. But I reckon it would be awesome if he can win it. I really do.
What about you, Michelle?
Yeah, it's going to be tight. I'm not sure. You know that we love our Torrance Racing, not just for Steve, but the family and his team that we've spent a lot of time with. So I'm always going to be barracking for them.
Yeah.
Don't
Don't rule them out, because Billy comes out, takes a few of the hard hitters out.
Oh yeah, when he's just having a break from his super comp.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
Just jumps straight in. Just
Pro stock?
if he's got an off.
I think
off
Dallas
weekend.
Glenn will wrap that one up. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to do it.
Yeah. I'm really glad to hear about Erica, but as well.
Yeah, that she was, from what I can understand, she was struggling with the new car, just where everything was. And, I mean, that's pretty important, the clutch pedal.
That's
Yeah,
a crucial part of her DNA. So to not have that right is really...
The other thing too that I heard her mention was the harnesses, because I think now they have to run the 5 point with the 2 straps that go over your legs, and I think that was impeding her ability to get off the...
You know, it's interesting. I'm not sure whether we spoke about it on air before, but last season I ended up getting a new pair of boots kind of a few meetings in, and I started the season well and and was in the finals for the first 3 rounds. And then I got a new pair of boots, and they had an ankle strap against their previous ones that had just laces. And my foot was hitting the throttle when I was coming into stage, and my foot resting on the pedal would open up the butterflies just ever so slightly, bring the revs up. And I was getting so thrown by it. I didn't know why it was happening. It would happen sometimes and not others. And it was actually how tight I was doing my ankle strap in the end, because I hold my foot right back. If that strap was too tight, the degree of where I could hold my foot off the pedal was being affected. So it was still resting and just opening those butterflies, because I only bring my foot across to the pedal when it's time to race and I'm going into stage. So it was really playing with my head. So I can totally understand how, with Erica and with the seating position and the clutch pedal, it's just that little degree of how your foot angles, and trying to then rule out what it is when things have changed with the car, things have changed with her seating position, probably the angle of her knee, leg.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
So it's, once you get it fixed, it's always, I always feel more good about my errors when I know why they happened and understand why they happened. I was trying to talk to, Trev and Trent about it, and it was like, you just need to concentrate. And I was like, no, I am, but this is starting to become like it's happening from muscle memory, but I'm not putting any
You needed to get them to put the boot on so that they could feel... Well, because I've got a set of boots that are like that.
Yeah.
And it rubs right there.
Yeah.
And when you lift your foot back, you can feel it digging in.
Yeah.
And, we're talking about a sport where win and lose is decided by thousands, if not tens of thousands of a second. So a little tiny change like that, particularly on a dial your own, where if you're resting and that changes the temperature of the engine or the torque converter temperature, the dial-in's going to be different.
It was more, it would stuff up my light, because I would bring the throttle on before I would usually bring it on. And, with a full tree for us, my thumb's off the trans brake before my foot goes down. And so suddenly my thumb's not off the trans brake, but I've got RPM.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So who do you reckon in Pro Stock? She can still do it. She can still do it. Mathematically, she can still do it.
Yeah, it would be nice to see.
I think Dallas and Aaron have been just so strong.
They have been brilliant.
They've just
trading blows all season.
They have. So I don't know. I think.
But the thing is, Erica and Greg have been here so many times before.
Yeah, they've been around a long time.
Right.
The two of them.
But they've been in this situation where they're right at the end of the season, the scrappy bit, and there's only a few points. Those two guys are brilliant. But can you imagine the pressure? Because it's Dallas's to lose right now.
A bit of the mental strength to benefit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Particularly with Erica, because she's got a chip on her shoulder around this time of the year. You know what I mean?
Oh, and she would do wanting to make up for lost points.
Oh, we need to chat as well.
We didn't even get to Pro Stock Motorcycle. But anyway, that's...
Oh, sorry. Go continue on.
Well, who do you reckon?
Gage Herrera.
You're going to give it to Gage. I reckon Matt's going to... Nah. I like Matt Smith. I'm gonna go with Matt Smith this season.
I'd like to see Matt Smith.
I think everyone would like to see him, but I can't see it happening. But anyway.
Oh, he's a brawler, you know what I mean? He doesn't mind speaking his mind.
No, that's a good point. We also need to mention yesterday, during the test and tune, Brody Zapier. So they kind of staged this quite well, didn't they? I mean, did you know that this was happening, Brody?
That he was licensing?
That he was going to be going into the door slammer.
I've known for a long time, and I
Okay.
planted the seed in his uncle's head, I don't know, 20 years ago. How old's Brody?
Had we spoken about this before?
We did, yeah.
We already
Yeah,
knew,
but I
yeah.
wasn't aware. I wasn't aware of this change. So
No, look,
he kind of got released on Friday, and he was there on Sunday.
He's a really good kid. He's a very hard-working kid. He did some amazing stuff last season with that car.
Yeah.
The first engine was this Frankenstein thing that him being a machinist or going through his apprenticeship, he made a lot of those components. But ultimately, like I said to him and to John, the sooner you get him in one of these things, the better, because ultimately this is where he, should be. And I'll be honest with you guys, I hope he has a great season. He's only going to do the local rounds at this stage. I hope he does a couple of seasons indoor slammer, but I'd like to see him in a top fueler. That's where I'd like, and I'd like to see him succeed and then possibly go to America, because I've not met someone his age with as much drive and passion and the mechanical ability that anyone would jump into a race car and drive it if it was like a paid gig where they just show up but that guy, I mean, he's been at my shop working till 2-3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and then has to drive to the bend. Like he has to go home, have a shower, grab his suitcase or bag, and hit the bend. And I don't see kids that age that have got that sort of drive.
And when you're referring to the bend, you don't mean the one at Oxley Drive, eh?
No.
Yeah, I don't really know him personally, but I know through speaking with others and conversations that we've had that he had to really earn his stripes, I suppose.
And that's the thing with John. John is one of these, I don't want him to turn out, and I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to get sued, but there has been other races that he drew comparison to, and I said, but he's not like that. He hasn't got that attitude. He hasn't got that chip on his shoulder. He's a very down-to-earth kid, Yeah. Now, there's a bit of a side story. So before we get into that, he did it in the minimum 4 passes required. He finished off with a 588 with a 1 at 242 mile an hour, which is like, they wouldn't have had it wound up. They would have had it just so it can go A to B. Awesome. Everything just went well. On the return road, he rings me. Right? And he goes, hey, I don't know if you've heard yet. And I was like, I'm actually in the middle of something. What's up? And he goes, I got my license. I said, that's great. That's fantastic, And he goes, you remember what you said to me? And I'm thinking, dude, I say a lot of things to a lot of people. No, I don't. He goes, you said to me, you better do it in 4 laps. I said, oh, okay. Did I say that? He goes, yeah. I said, and did you? And he goes, yeah, I did. I said, right, good. So, yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. He's a young kid. He works for High Speed?
Correct. He works for High Speed Engineering.
I thought I saw him at Targa as well. So he would have been crewing for...
Absolutely he would have. Yep.
Helia, is it? The Commodore?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I thought I saw him there.
You would think that he works for Zap too for the amount of time that he spends at... Sure.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I thought I saw him crewing on the Commodore there at Targa. Now, congratulations to Brody and Richard, of course, as well.
So at this stage of the game, he's going to be doing the local rounds. He's driving the steel-bodied car, Zap's Rat, and John will be in the Crusher. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, good to see them.
Do we know how Boris went as well?
I think they were just, early days.
Yep.
I believe that he had Jeff Cuttajar, who is Kapiras's crew chief, giving him a bit of a hand. But
Yeah, he did go out. I was actually in the staging lane, so I'm not sure. But Trent said, "I'll be back. I want to go watch the Sandman."
Yeah, beautiful car.
Oh, it's
Absolutely
magnificent.
beautiful
Yeah,
car.
yeah.
Yeah. So no, I don't. You know, I mean, it is a big thing to get a brand new car, and it's not like America where, you know, they're cookie cutter cars. You know what I mean? So if you put the 4-link in the same spot and you got the same engine, you got the same torque converter, you got the same diff gears, everything's the same. The car should go all right. Then it's just a matter of getting the driver up to speed. When you got cars like Boris's, where it's a hand-built one-off thing, you got to figure that stuff out. And, you know, I wouldn't want anyone to take my record anyway.
Fair enough. Fair enough.